It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today.
Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and maybe we'll share the video of this one because Jess and I are sitting next to each other today. She's actually doing her nails while we record this episode. It's great. But we are in person, and we figured we would just go back to one of our favorite topics to talk about, which is muscle and hormones and how everything's connected and how you can really optimize your hormone health. And I actually have a podcast that I did with a doctor yesterday that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks. And we really talked about how, conventional medicine and the struggle that people have with like normal labs, but I don't feel good and all of these things, they tend to feel really frustrated and defeated with the system, which is very valid and understandable. And I feel the same way. But one of the things that I told him is really important to me and to us and to the way that we coach clients is to really like dig into the psychological piece of that and give the women that we work with like essentially their power back and know that they have control over a lot, almost all of the things that come with their health. And it really comes down to, shocker, the basics. But we want to dig into the nitty gritty of lifting and building strength and building muscle specifically when it comes to your hormone health. And it really is just an underrated hack for your metabolism, for your hormones, for physique change. Pretty much everything like is at the root of it. And it's honestly one of my biggest bones to pick with a lot of programs that provide supplements or protocols or all of these things. They tend to overlook the two biggest movers, which are nutrition and muscle. And, Jess uses the analogy of stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Like that's logically, when you say that, you're like, okay, why would I do that? That's really what you're doing when you're asking for these labs and these supplements, these protocols, and I need to fix my hormones, but you're not lifting weights. And I feel like a lot of times I'll hear with women, but I am lifting weights, but I'm working out, but they're lacking recovery. So they're not actually effectively building muscle, or people say, I don't have time, or they say, I don't like lifting. At the end of the day, lifting isn't always my favorite thing to do either, but I do it religiously at least 2 days a week because I know how good it is for my health. Just like I brush my teeth. It's not my favorite activity, but we do it because we know that we have to maintain good dental hygiene, right? So that's really what we want to dig into are the specifics around building muscle for the sake of your hormones.
And I feel like since we have shifted to doing more functional coaching versus physique coaching, which we do both, but I feel like since we've made that shift, we have a lot more clients come in and say like, yeah, I want to do all this stuff and I want to get the labs and I want to work on nutrition, but like I don't like lifting. And as if it's a negotiable part of what we do. But it is a key critical component in why our clients get healthier and metabolically healthier. It's a non-negotiable. It's not if I don't like it, I heard that Pilates will do the same thing or that bar classes will do the same thing or whatever. Again, any movement is good movement, but for the sake of metabolism, insulin sensitivity, bone density, longevity, nothing beats building muscle. And it really is a science too, in terms of like what good programming looks like. Not all exercise is created equal if you are looking for a specific outcome. So, if you're thinking about working with us, we're going to have you lift. Now we are going to meet you where you are, just like we will with anything else. So like if somebody can only start with 2 days a week, great. For most people, we recommend 2 to 4 lifts per week. We're not saying you need to work out 6 days a week. Usually that's actually counterproductive because you need more rest and recovery for the stimulus. Like you're creating a stressor in your body and you need your body to adapt to that stress. So we need recovery time in between. But maybe it means scaling back how long the workouts are. Maybe it means starting with home dumbbells before joining a gym, right? But we do need some sort of resistance training to see optimal results.
And we have to, like to Jess's point, in terms of meeting you where you're at, if you are not working out consistently, or you're like, I might work out 1 day a week, or I might do this, or I might do that, or I might go to a Pilates class, great. There is a balance of enjoyment. We're not here to torture you and flip your life upside down. So that might mean you do 1 or 2 days a week of the things that you love. And then we add in 1 or 2 days a week of strength training. And the good thing is 99% of the time, when you start to see the benefits inside and out of lifting effectively, you're going to enjoy it more because you like the outcomes. But if you don't like lifting, my take on that is that you likely haven't ever done it the way that we program, and you're not reaping the full benefits of it to make it feel worth your while. I go to the gym and I lift heavy and push myself even on days sometimes that I'm tired because I know what it's going to give me, right? It doesn't feel good. Sometimes I'm frustrated in the middle of it, but I do it because I want to do it effectively, and I'm not there to, for me, I would rather go to the gym and get everything out of every minute that I'm there, especially from an activity I don't like doing, versus going and just going through the motions and picking up a dumbbell and putting it down and then being mad that I don't like the result of I didn't do the thing.
Right.
That's
Do
gonna give
it
me that
more
result.
effectively, and you won't have to do it as much either. Like, I genuinely, and again, I'm in a place where I have built muscle over years and I've been very consistent, but I'm in a phase where I can just maintain my physique with 2 lifts a week, 45-minute to 60-minute workouts twice a week. Like, how great does that sound versus this all or nothing thing that so many women fight their own bodies by thinking, I have to do more. And then they do all or nothing, and it's not metabolically helpful. Versus if you can just be really steady in building muscle, doing the basic things over and over, but with more and more, I'm saying the word intensity, but volume, heavier or more reps or slower tempo to make it a stressor on your system, you're going to yield those results and be able to maintain them even through the times that you have to dial it back more because life is crazy or there's an injury or there's vacation. You won't just gain it all back like you would if you lost weight just doing cardio or burning more calories. Like, adding muscle causes your body to burn more calories all the time, even when you're not working out. It is a metabolically expensive tissue in a really good way so that you can eat more or enjoy life a little bit more and not have to worry so much about it because your muscles acting like insurance on your metabolism.
Yeah. And, if you think about, like, I don't know, an analogy, like, let's say you love a good fucking glass of milk. Okay. And you're like, I want more milk. I want to fill this glass as much as I can. At some point, the glass is going to spill, right? And you can't fit any more milk into the glass. There's a law of diminishing return. And this is where people, I think, get themselves into a bind where they're like, okay, I need to work out more. Like, I can do more than 2 days a week. So I'm going to do 3. Well, if I'm going to do 3, I should do 4. Well, I really want fast results. So now I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I have a client right now that's working out twice a day, 7 days a week. There's a law of diminishing return. She's exhausted. She can't get as much out of her lifts as the girl who's working out 3 or 4 days a week super effectively. So she's actually digging herself into a hole. She has dumped a gallon of milk into a 16-ounce glass, right? She's not getting the benefits of that added milk in the glass, right? So that's really what you should think about. There is a balance, and you have to look at your overall picture, right? Stress in your life. How much food are you giving or not giving your body? And this is the context that I think is really important in terms of meeting you where you're at. Like, I have a client right now who is like ride or die 4 days a week, super consistent. She had some big changes in her business as an owner. And I was like, hey, I know you really like mentally want to still commit to 4 days a week, but you haven't done that in a long time. Like, I think it makes sense to not miss out on effective programming, and let's shift to 3 days in this season. You can go back to 4 later. But that's really what it's about, is being realistic with your commitments. But effective programming is going to come from how much time can you commit to in your lift? What is your experience level in that? And obviously utilizing progressive overload techniques through that. And then also, again, being realistic and knowing if you say, I'm going to work out 5 days a week and you've got an arm day, a leg day, a back day, a chest day, but you're only going maybe 2 days a week. So you're hitting legs here, chest there, whatever. You're not getting enough volume for the change. So again, you have to be realistic and adjust your programming based on that commitment. Now, when it comes to okay, obviously, I know we went on a lot of tangents regarding like muscle. And when it comes back to hormones, the point of us saying all of this is there are a lot of women that come to us and say, I don't feel good. I know my hormones are off. I have terrible cycles. I'm bloated. I'm fatigued. I have hypothyroid, whatever. Insert hormone imbalance here, right? The point is that lifting weights effectively and knowing how to manipulate that structure in your life and based on your experience is one of the biggest levers that you can pull when it comes to improving insulin sensitivity, when it comes to, like Jess said, adding more metabolically active tissue to your body so that you have a better metabolism and things are more effective. But all of that said, the caveat is, okay, you're lifting weights, you're going to the gym effectively. Are you sleeping and recovering and balancing that?
Are you eating?
Yeah. Are you eating
Like,
enough food?
are you giving yourself the building blocks to actually build muscle? So when we talk about giving yourself that stimulus to help yourself metabolically and burn more calories and things like that, we can't do that in a depleted state. So we are adding a stressor to your body. You also need the nourishment and vitamins and minerals required to then heal and build the tissue itself. So I see this a lot with women who are like, I want to build a butt. But then they're just constantly dieting because they also want to lose belly fat. And that's really hard to do at the same time. I think of the analogy of like, if you hire a bunch of contractors to work on a house and you're like, okay, I'm hiring you, I'm paying you to stand there, but you don't give them the bricks or the building blocks, you're wasting that paid time, right? That's kind of what we're doing if we're going to the gym and we're not also nourishing. And I don't want to say it like it's a waste of time. Movement is healthy for you. Resistance training is healthy. But if you want to build muscle, you need to nourish and you need to give yourself the recovery for that stress adaptation to take place. We can't just keep grinding and grinding.
Yeah. And, you know, like insulin resistance, I feel like is a big topic on social media right now. And I am fascinated at how many women come to us, either their labs are telling us they are insulin resistant or they suspect it, and they're not lifting weights consistently. And they've worked with other providers. I'm like, how are we not doing the most
one biggest thing? Yeah, it's the most. It is the most effective thing, and also that's one of the things that really gets me with the GLP abuse. Honestly, like I am not against using them as a tool in a deficit. Or for specific cases to help with inflammatory responses and things like that. But if you are saying you're using it for insulin sensitivity and you're not lifting weights, like what are you doing? You're just missing a huge thing that you could be doing for your body naturally. So
it's
also,
like you decided to ride a bike to your destination instead of a car, and you're like,
well,
I'm working really hard, I'm sweating, when you literally could just get in the fucking car and
make it so much easier. Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this?
Also, Jill just talked about like how we'll customize workouts. So I do see that a lot, especially like we'll recommend if you're used to working out and you're like, no, I exercise, I go to classes, body pump, F45, whatever the thing is, right? I feel like when people switch to more like bodybuilding or powerlifting type programs, a lot of time it's like a standard bodybuilding split where it's like Monday upper body, Tuesday lower body, Wednesday chest, whatever. And then what ends up happening is life gets in the way. You can't go to the gym 5 days a week. Most of our clients are like women who have kids or jobs or other busy stuff, right? When something pops up, how sustainable is this for you, right? To do 5 or 6 days a week for the rest of your life? Probably not. Even if it is doable in this current phase, great. But a lot of times what ends up happening is people will go and they'll be like, oh, great, now I've hit my legs 3 weeks in a row and I haven't hit my chest at all, right? So when we're talking about programming specific to the person, a lot of it is, hey, what's most realistic on your worst week, right? If you are not sure if you'll really get there 3 days a week, okay, cool. Let's program you 3 full body days. So we're hitting upper, lower, chest, back, hams, quads, deadlifts, squats. We're hitting that a couple times a week. So if you miss that third workout, it's not a big deal. We've already hit all the major lifts at least 2 times, right? So I did a workshop on this a couple years ago. You can go to either of our social medias and find a link to it if you want to look it up. But it's like a workshop on building your own program. And it's kind of the concept that I use to reverse engineer a really good program for somebody. So how many days a week is realistic for you to stick to? Okay, now we want to look at, I want to hit every major movement pattern or muscle group at least twice a week, right? So if you only have 2 days a week, I'm programming very differently than somebody who has 4 days a week. Maybe I'm doing upper, lower, or push, pull. In any case, we're still bare minimum hitting every major function at least twice a week. And when I say function, I'm talking squat, hinge, push, pull, some sort of stabilization overhead or like anti-rotation type movement as the 5th one. That one can kind of vary. But we're incorporating those a couple of times a week and we are progressively overloading within them. So oftentimes these workouts seem pretty boring, like mundane in terms of we're not changing it up every single time. We're not doing tricky stuff because it's going to hit a muscle in a new way. It's really doing the basics super, super well and progressing within them. That's going to get you the best results over time and allow you to maintain a healthy, fit physique while doing less work and being able to just enjoy life and be present and not feel like you're having to like work this uphill battle to make up for calories eaten. That is not the way to do it.
And also, like, stress is and cortisol, a big conversation around like, oh, well, my cortisol's high, so I shouldn't be lifting. Lifting is a good stressor for your body. Now, it is a stressor at the end of the day. So there are certain parts of a protocol where we dial things back temporarily. We add in yoga and other recovery methods to balance everything out. But if you're looking at your life and you're really stressed, why on earth would you pull the top contender that's going to move the needle for both your health and your physique? Not to mention,
and your mental health too. Like, it's a mental health healthy input.
Yeah, truly. And then you're doing things like cutting carbs, skipping meals, fasting, under eating, even if it's unintentional, or you're just not balancing and setting boundaries in your life effectively. So you're like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, you're going in reverse, or you're just operating with freaking blindfold. So when it comes to hormones, that signaling, there are so many benefits. Another thing that we're seeing, with these women creeping into perimenopause territory is, well, they're like, I have low testosterone. Well, guess what? The one thing is that's most effective in naturally increasing your testosterone and the signaling behind the scenes that happens, lifting weights and adding muscle. So there are just, it really, like, if you're connecting the dots on, okay, here's the problem, let me reverse engineer how to go from point A to point B, you're always going to come back to giving your body enough food and nutrients and being more effective and intentional with your nutrition, as well as your training and your movement, and you're adding muscle. Now, sure, like, aging, perimenopause, hormonal changes that can come with perimenopause. Yes, when your hormones are down, because that's just the way the cookie crumbles through that process, it doesn't mean it will, it can make things more difficult when it comes to adding muscle. But let me tell you the two scenarios that guarantee that you'll have trouble building muscle or won't be able to. One, you're not eating enough. Two, you're not lifting effectively with progressive overload. You have to actually do the things to see the change. So a lot of times I feel like there's a psychological thing here where people are like, well, I can't build muscle because I'm in perimenopause. And then I look and I'm like, okay, well, you haven't lifted consistently for 4 weeks and eat 1,200 calories. So, like, correlation is not causation here. Your lack of inputs is what's driving the lack of muscle and the inability to build it. So you're just not putting the puzzle pieces together at all.
And all the women that we have who lift really effectively, who are peri or postmenopausal,
like, oh my gosh,
have so much less menopause symptoms. Like, they sleep better, they have a higher libido, they have more energy, they don't have as much brain fog. And it's a very common thread that they are all just following effective lifting modalities. Even if you like look on Instagram there's so many like 50 and fit type people who you can follow, and all of them are following, I don't want to say bodybuilding. I don't like a bodybuilding style split, right? I don't think you need to work out 5 or 6 days a week, splitting up each part, but like build like you want to be a bodybuilder, right?
Yeah.
Train like you want to build muscle. And all it's going to do is just speed up your metabolism and make keeping fat off easier and hormone health easier.
Well, and it's interesting too, because like, even in a perfect dieting scenario, when someone is in a calorie deficit and they are eating less food, their metabolism is going to naturally downregulate. Even if you're being really mindful and intentional and we are running your deficit, your metabolism is still going to downregulate, because that's what your body's designed to do. Your free T3 marker, if you draw it when someone is in the depths of a deficit, it's going to be down naturally. That's just what it does. And guess what?
That's your active, that's like the active usable thyroid.
Yeah. And when you add food back in post deficit, guess what? That free T3 is going to pop right back up if there aren't any other variables in that equation. So you have to understand that if you aren't eating enough food, you are unfortunately downregulating your own metabolism, and then in turn making your lifts less effective. When we program for clients and they're in we're in a fat loss phase, this is intentional, their food is down, we're not like, okay, PR and go for 4 to 5 reps. We might, if somebody can maintain their strength through their whole deficit, great, we did a good job if they're getting that result. But we expect and anticipate some level of maintenance. Like the goal in deficit is to hold on to as much muscle if you can. And if you are someone that can build in a deficit, great. We're going to go for that. Otherwise, the goal is to lose fat through manipulating nutrition, lift just like you'd lift any other time, and then get you back to maintenance so that you're adding that tissue back, because there is always a risk of a little bit of muscle loss, even if you are eating protein and lifting effectively and all those things in a deficit, which is why it should be short term and short lived. So we want to make sure that you are eating enough food and that you have the inputs to actually drive the change. And then also, just to remind you, or remind anybody who is afraid of looking, putting in air quotes, bulky when you lift weights.
Good luck.
Good luck, because it's not an overnight process. It takes time. Really, I think every client we work with would solve all of her problems if she went through a 12-month maintenance and muscle building phase. Like, I think that would solve almost every woman's hormone, weight loss.
And again, when we say maintenance, it's like you're steadily lifting 2 to 4 times a week.
And
like
eating 2,000
And to look at both
plus
of our
calories.
Instagrams, if you're like, oh no, I'm going to get bulky. Like, no, I look pretty lean.
I've been
in
trying
a
to build
bathing-
muscle for 10 years.
I look pretty lean in a bathing suit, and I can take a couple weeks off of lifting every now and then when I want to go on vacation or if my kids are sick, and I'm fine because my body maintains, because I've been lifting for 15 years.
Yeah.
So yeah. Also, I want to kind of go back to, because I do think there's a lot of stuff on the internet about like dial back and we say this sometimes, but dial back intensity. If your goal is hormone or gut health, and you're like, I'm going to sign up for a high rocks, those two goals compete with each other, right? So you can do both things, but directionally, if you're putting too much stress and too much intensity on your body for a performance outcome, you're going to compromise a little bit if you're struggling hormone or gut wise. I say this to say it's always a balancing act. So we also incorporate things like deload weeks, where I have clients at times just do like yin yoga or slow recovery type yoga, or walks outside for a whole week. If somebody is a high stress go person and they train really hard, and they're super consistent with their training, I might plan that every 5 or 6 weeks, we are doing a week off. So, you can also manipulate this by not training, right? But for most people, those deload weeks naturally come in. You don't need to plan it, because for most people, they're not that consistent, right? But I do want to say we do incorporate those kind of times every now and then. The reason I bring this up is because I think it's always like one extreme or the other, where people are like, only use body weight because lifting weights is too much stress. And like, that's just bad advice. Or on the other end, it's like, do CrossFit 6 days a week, do F45 6 days a week, sign up for a high rocks. And that also is too much intensity, right? We want to find that healthy balance. And usually people are at one end of the spectrum or the other, where either they're doing too much and they need their recovery dials turned, where we increase food to nourish that exercise activity, or we increase recovery so that you can actually adapt to that level of activity. Or they're at the other end of the spectrum, where you just need to get off the couch and do something, right? Like, it's always a balancing act for every single client of ours, where we need to figure out, okay, what does this specific person need? Because it might be to crank it up, or it might be to turn it down.
No, that's a great point. And, you know, it's interesting how many women come in to my DMs all of the time, and they're like, hey, I just need labs and supplements. I've got nutrition and training covered. And respectfully, you don't. If you're in my DM saying you need labs and you don't feel good.
Because you would feel good if you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, like if that was all dialed, you're telling me you don't feel good and you don't know why your body's not responding to what you're doing. So do enlighten me on how you don't need help with nutrition and training. And I have to tell you, when it comes to training specifically, I would say 99% of the time, that is not dialed to the effect it can be. And I tell people, listen, at the end of the day, the program is the program. You are going to get less results if I'm not managing your training. And because that's a big piece of the puzzle.
And we're looking at how they all work together, not
Right.
one thing. I talked to a client about, I am coaching a guy who is also a coach himself. And that can be hard to like relinquish control a little bit. But I'm like, dude, my goal, you're a performance coach, and your goal is always go, 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 performance. Right now, your body needs less, right? And that's really hard to let go of especially if you love your workout modality, right? So it doesn't mean you can't, like Jill said, you don't have to keep those types of things out forever. But if you have a specific goal we want to work towards, if you want to get there as fast as possible, we might need to dial those things back for a little. And then, okay, cool. Your metabolism is running great. We're feeling good in our body. We've gotten through this cut, and now we're back up at high calories. now let's add those runs back in a couple times a week, or now let's add back in whatever the thing may be, right?
That's a great point. We have another coach who is a power lifter, and she was very hesitant signing up. Like, she's like, I know logically I need your
This is
help.
a coach who is a client, she's saying. She's
really a
a client of ours.
and she's like big power lifter, has been for years, but she's like,
Which I love that. Most women would benefit from doing that because most women aren't adapted to it. Most women are doing high rep ranges, low weight.
Yeah.
She might benefit from a little less.
She's the opposite.
Yep.
So she was having some gut issues, went through a whole protocol. Through that, she realized, like, self-realization of like, man, I actually don't manage my stress very well at all, and I don't know how to turn off. So we actually added in more recovery modalities for her, and her training is more bodybuilding style because, like Jess said, she's adapted to lifting very low rep, very heavy with those longer rest periods. So we're kind of ramping up a more endurance type of training for her. And
Her body will adapt really well to that.
She's in a deficit, and she's like, I cannot believe I'm losing weight on 2,000 calories and like over 200 carbs. She's like, my last deficit I did on myself, I was at 1,400, and I got results, but it was brutal.
And it probably really impacted her training too.
Yeah.
She was probably super weak in her lifts.
Well, it was funny. She's like, my husband programs for me, and he's really not happy about me passing off training. But she's like, if I'm going to invest in this, let me do
That's
it
awesome.
their way fully, and then you can take back over. And I think obviously he's happy for her.
Well, and it's fun when we have somebody like that who knows what they're doing. We can explain the why, and then they're learning as they go. And it's so cool to see how it like triples. It like plants a seed where they become. Yeah, exactly. They're adding skill sets to their toolbox. So, yeah, I feel like. Also, we're talking about, there's a lot of nuance to it. Because again, I think a lot of people come in like, it's fine. Exercise is exercise. I'll just sign up for a class, or I'll just get Chat GPT to write my workouts. And we've had coaches like that who work for us where I'm like, we gotta learn the why behind every single movement, every rest period, every rep range, because we want to, any resistance that you add will work until it doesn't. Once it doesn't, we need to adapt appropriately. Like once your body starts plateauing, and again, it will. Your body is built to adapt to stressors. At some point, we need to just be really strategic with the changes that we make. So are we increasing rep ranges slightly? Are we increasing weight, but also increasing rest periods? Like all of those things are very, very intentional in our programming. So I'm saying, okay, it's so complicated, this and that. There's lots of different people that you could follow. If you're like, okay, I'm not quite ready to sign up with you guys for coaching yet for all in hormones and labs and nutrition and training. If you just want a good training program, we have that build your own workout programming guide. So you can look at that. Mind Pump, they have really great programs. Every single holiday, they're 50% off. They always have 50% off codes. Just by doing some of those basic ones, anabolic or bodybuilding or whatever. And you don't even need to do them as long as some of them are very long. I tend to skip abs, calves, biceps, triceps, and you still get really great results. But do something like that 3 days a week for 12 weeks and watch your body transform, and you will have a completely new respect for weight training because you're following a program that's well written. And I feel like there's also this carryover. This is not like the metabolism type physical benefits that we were talking about, but it like makes you more confident in other areas of life because it gives you like this self-efficacy where you see that I do this input and wow, I can change the outcome for myself. And how empowering is that when it comes to any area of your life, right? You start to realize like, oh, okay, well, what happens if I change this other thing? What happens if, and it's this trickle down where you start to learn about yourself and feel better too through the process. So like, I'm just a big proponent of it. Again, cardio exercise is great for your health. Classes are great for, like, again, movement is healthy. Classes can be great for social health and connection. But you're not going to get that instant, like 1 + 1 = 2 in terms of the outcome that you can get if following a structured lifting program in terms of physical outcomes and like being able to see it in a strategic way where we can kind of predict what it's going to look like if you're following a good program well.
Yeah. And, in terms of the dollars versus pennies analogy, I think, Jess mentioned GLP, and it's just this very like, I want instant results. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting to see people associate certain aspects. They kind of cherry pick what's convenient for them. And they think, okay, if I just, somebody told me this will get me X results. So if I just do this, I'm fine. But if you are spending money on supplements, on labs, on protocols, but you are not eating enough, your food is very like processed, you're not nourishing your body, and you're not lifting, I got to tell you, not only are you stepping over dollars for pennies, you are
throwing away dollars.
Yeah, like your dollars are falling out of your pocket as you're picking up these pennies. So like you're losing money by, and this women, again, multiple inquiries a day saying, can you just do my labs and my supplement protocol? And I'm like, no, that's useless. It would be unethical for me to take your money and do that. Like that would be a cash grab and like not helpful for you. Now you're going to be out a couple $1,000s on labs and supplements. And
I think the people who are doing that are well-intentioned because they're looking at, like, I just talked to a good friend of mine who is on GLPs. She was a client of ours for a long time. And she was like, you guys, like, I'm doing this in such a healthy way. I'm not pre-diabetic anymore, blah, blah, blah. But she said, my nurse practitioner is great and all, but she didn't once talk to me about nutrition or exercise. So she's like, oh, yay, it's working. Now all these things are improving. And she's like, the advice that every other patient of hers is getting is just, oh, take this thing and it's making you healthier. Okay, it's making you way less. It's making you way less. But again, we already talked about this. When you eat less and less and less, at some point your metabolism downregulates. What's the game plan for when you come off of the medication? If you are lifting and eating enough protein and nourishment and learning how to get these habits underway, you can actually ramp your calories back up, come off of the medication, and maintain those inches that you've lost. That is possible. And we do that every single day with our clients. And some of them are using those tools and some of them are absolutely not. But the lifting component there is absolutely necessary for the metabolic maintenance versus this yo-yo game.
Well, and, when it comes to, a lot of people will argue, well, like if somebody's obese, they're going to have health benefits from losing weight. You're not wrong, but we have to come at it from multiple angles, right? Like
both short-term and the long-term adaptation.
Right. So short-term, yes, the scale is going to go down and you might have lower blood pressure. Your legs might not be as tired when you walk, all of those things because you're not carrying.
Which could be a snowball because if you feel better on your knees, now you move more, right? Like, so we are not dogging the tool. We're dogging the application of it.
Right. So that's what I was going to say. If you go on GLP and let's say you are obese and you lose weight, great. But now you have to do the other things now that you've taken that initial edge off, right? And made it easier for you to execute those things. But the problem comes from people associate, okay, my doctor said all my problems will be solved if I lose weight. I went on the GLP, I ate less and I lost weight. But there's going to come a time where you're now introduced to new problems. I've seen it many times where now they're like, well, I don't know why now I'm losing hair. And now my insulin's really high. Now I'm pre-diabetic. And they're like, how did this happen when I lost weight? And it's like, well,
you're under muscled.
Stressing your body, you're under muscled. And now we've created a new problem. So again, we have to look at the full picture and like, yes, you can pull this lever for the sake of seeing the scale go down and taking off some of that weight, especially if you are in the obese category. I think it's beautiful that we have tools like that now for those situations. But the problem is we have to still address the behavioral piece, the movement piece, and the nutrition piece. And that's often what's lacking. So again, coming back to, even if somebody is obese, one of the most effective things they can do for weight loss, for mobility, for their bone health, for their confidence, for all of those things is going to be add muscle to their frame. They're going to see all of the same hormonal benefits and they're going to see their weight come off because they are moving their body more and they are still burning calories and they are still getting their heart rate up and all of those things.
But even if you're not in a deficit, even if you're not in a caloric deficit, if you start lifting weights, your health markers will improve. And we've seen that over and over and over again with clients that we put through a maintenance phase first before we ever enter a deficit. And their A1C starts going down just from adding muscle, adding weights.
So the point of all of that is you can see from, hormones is obviously a really big bucket, right? It's sex hormones, it's thyroid, it's sex hormones in the context of perimenopause, it's cortisol, it's all of these things. What we're trying to tell you is that adding muscle is really the most underrated hormone hack. It's the most underrated hack when it comes to your health, to your physique change. All of these things that you're looking for. If you are like, man, I don't feel good, man, my body's not responding, look at your calorie intake, track over the course of a week or two and see what your averages look like in terms of specifically your protein and your calories. If you are living in a deficit, that's going to be the first lever to pull. And then that's 1A. And then 1B is going to be, are you lifting weights consistently and intentionally
And
to actually
effectively.
drive the change, that you want to see?
And I think it can be very helpful to, just like everything else, if you can track it, you know what your inputs are and you can manipulate it, right? So I see this a lot, especially with people who used to be athletes, where we have this like identity of, oh yeah, I work out because that's who I am. I'm an athlete, right? And then when I actually look at their inputs, I'm like, well, you work out 4 or 5 days a week for 2 months, and then you take a couple months off. And it's like this swing back and forth because they've trained their whole life thinking they have to be hardcore. So track and truly do it 2 to 4 days a week for 6 months and see what happens. Again, and it's okay to take a week off every now and then, or just train one day every now and then, but consistently 2 to 4 days a week for 6 months and see what happens, because your body will literally change and you'll feel so much better. But that consistency, and then also tracking progression, like that's important. If you lift the same 15-pound weights for your bench press over and over and over and over and over again, you are not creating a new stimulus for the muscle to adapt. You have to progress in some way. So the easiest way to progress is slowly adding weight over time. But we had a whole episode about other ways to progressively overload besides adding weight. So you can increase reps, you can increase range of motion, you can slow down the tempo to increase time over tension. You could do, if you are not in a gym where it's easier to manipulate weight, if squats start feeling too easy with your weight at home, start doing single leg squats and see what happens. So we have a whole episode on that you guys can go back and listen. It's all about progressive overload. But you have to do some sort of progressive overload or create a new stimulus to see change. You can't just do the same thing over and over and then be like, hello, why isn't it working?
Yep. So moral of the story, lift weights, add muscle, no matter where you are in life in terms of your experience or skill set with lifting, your age, your stress levels, gut hormone, whatever you have going on, I don't care. Lift weights, that's going to solve a lot of your problems. Give it a couple weeks. I will say, if you haven't been lifting consistently and you start to, you might see the scale pop up a little bit. You might feel a little bit inflamed for a week or two. That's very, very normal.
I would say don't even weigh in.
Yeah.
Do this for months. Do this for 3 to 6 months without taking your weight at all. Now, again, I do recommend if you're tracking food,
your intake,
right? Yeah. Because sometimes you might be more hungry, so you might end up increasing calories without realizing it because your body's using it, right?
Correct.
But as long as your inches are staying stable, great. That means you could be putting on muscle if you see the scale go up. So I would go more on how you feel and just focus on getting stronger than I would on the scale.
So yeah, after that initial adaptation period, I can almost guarantee your clothes are going to fit better. You're going to sleep better. Your energy is going to get better. And over that course of the 3 to 6 months that you're doing that consistently, 3 to 4 days a week, you are going to see very, very meaningful change in your body, in how you feel and how you look. It's really going to drive a lot of that change. So when women come to me and say, I do my own programming, I'm almost tempted to say, like, I don't know if I can help you, because that's
or send it to us.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll have them send me what they're doing, and then I will make suggestions of, okay, here's why, and I'll try to educate them on the why, and then eventually they'll incorporate some of those changes, and then they'll be like, okay, actually, it's just better. I get better results when you do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what Jill said, you're gonna feel achy, you're gonna feel uncomfortable for the first. I would say give it 4 weeks before your body starts adapting, and you're like, oh, now I feel good sore versus uncomfortable. I think mobility is a very important part of this. So train in full ranges of motion, get yourself moving well. Also, it's not just go lift as heavy as you possibly can, right? We want to have healthy movement patterns and functional movement patterns. But give it 4 weeks of that. I think another big thing is if people have had prior injuries, they're like, oh no, I can't lift because once upon a time, a PET told me not to because I had an injury back in 87, right? Like,
Yeah.
No matter what the case is, we can modify. We can find a movement pattern that does work for you if another one doesn't feel good, right? So rather than avoiding it, you still need to do resistance training. You will have less risk of injury if you can increase the muscle around said, I don't know, if you have a herniated disc or something, right? I actually had a client who's quite young who has a degenerative spine disease, and she would throw her back out all the time until we started working together and doing deadlifts. Sometimes people, I have a back thing, I can't do deadlifts. Well, we need to learn how to move properly and brace properly. Then once you start doing it, well, now her muscles around her spine are actually supporting her. So she throws her back out way less often. It's so cool to see for somebody who is really young in her 30s with this back thing that she knows she's going to have to live with for her whole life. So anywho, yes, resistance training is for everyone. And if you have a really good trainer or coach, they can program according to you and your needs.
Yeah. Add muscle, lift weights. And if you have questions, as always, you guys know that you can DM us anytime on Instagram. And that's all for this episode. And we'll see you guys next time.